We're ready. Okay. Good evening. First of all, my name is Chuck Bowman. I'll be leading the meeting tonight. I'm vice president of our board, and our president's not able to be here tonight. And so I'll be conducting, I'll call the meeting to order. This is the August the 17th meeting of the Duluth Community Service District Board of Directors. So first thing is roll call. Director Carroll.
I'm here.
Here. Director Delasander here. Director Rawson.
Here.
Director Roberts is absent. President Roberts is absent, and Coleman, of course, is here. Let's stand and do the pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, indivisible. Thank you. Sorry for the fumble there. The next order of business will be to accept the provisions of AB 361, I'm sorry, that we need to consider and adopt at each meeting to allow us to have the on-site and online meetings. So is there a motion to approve that? And a second?
I'll second.
All right. Very good. All in favor? Carol?
Aye.
Delasander? Aye. Ross?
Aye.
And Bowman is aye. It's approved. Thank you. Time for the sheriff's report, Sam.
Well, good evening. Really quick wise, basically the last month has been pretty quiet on the hill. Nothing really serious has occurred on the hill. I feel we still again, we're gonna lose. It still looks marvelous. It's beautiful as always. And I was able to look at any marijuana grows once again. So basically this year, so far, nothing, which is a good sign for the both management companies and property in terms of theft of water. So for sure they're happy. One thing that we happened recently was we had a break-in at the golf course. It's not within the district, but it occurred there. And from the view that I saw, looking at other flyers from the county, it's the same individual. So this person, opportunity, came to our area, took about $3,000 in cash and fled the area. But it's being investigated by myself and the ag team for Riverside County. And that's basically it. Just wanted, once again, the traffic has dropped dramatically. I'm pretty sure Steve's gonna comment on that. And I've been getting a lot of people giving me concerned about traffic at all. So.
I like those short reports.
Me too. Any questions from the board?
I do have a question. There was an incident on Brentford, California, about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. And there were several police cars. They blocked traffic, stopped traffic, and there was a man without a vehicle that I could see that they were arresting, and they had him on the ground. And wondered if you knew what was going on there.
Oh, that was the gentleman that decided to start fire by the beehive.
Yeah, right.
And he got arrested by Cal Fire came out and they arrested him for arson.
Okay.
Or actually, it was starting a fire in a hazardous manner, to that effect. But he was arrested and he was put in jail for that.
The other thing is we've been reading about, I heard Gina mention this, that next door stuff. There seems to be more activity, illegal activity, people, thefts, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's most of that, or all of that I see is across the border, San Diego County, towards Fallbrook and places like that. You know anything about that? And is there any concern about that moving in towards us?
Not to my knowledge, the 2 individuals that were causing a lot of havoc in our area a couple of years ago, one is displaced in Washington. He has an active warrant out for his arrest on him. The other individual, my understanding, he's still in Fallbrook. public Duluth area. But that's why I tend to hang on a lot around the south end of Carancho, by Fallbrook, over there by Monte Rancho. I try to fire clears over there a lot, kind of to remind people that we're up here.
Okay.
But I haven't got anything from the Fallbrook Sheriff Department office,
Okay.
any similar activity. The one that was similar was one, I think about a year and a half ago, where this gentleman was driving around in Fallbrook, Duluth area, and then he found his way up to our area. But nothing occurred. This person, which once again, if you see something, say something, if there's a person or a vehicle, please contact us. That way we respond. If the person has left, fine, at least they know that we'll respond. If they contact them, it's just a broken down vehicle or someone lost, fine too, at least we have some closure. But I always encourage people to contact us. Please contact us. There's only like, when I was going over, like 6 times we were contacted regarding vehicles and people. But I encourage it, hey, the more the merrier for us, the more crisis we have out there. Is that your?
Oh, yeah, I saw some stuff about La Cresta, quite a bit of activity going up there. And so I'm right saying, I thought that was a little odd. And so I just want to make sure it doesn't come down to us, but that's okay.
That's right. I go to those places all the time.
Yeah.
The road, fly around it too.
Yeah, the one where they turned off the electric and stole the motor home and all that. Yeah, pretty. Yeah.
Like I said, that's why I try to hang around our water areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Anything else on board?
No. Thank you, Deputy Perez.
thank you.
Are there any public comments online or, of course, no one here? Okay, very good. So item D is covered. For information only, the financial statements and the statements of investment policy are included in the package. Any questions or comments from the board on any of those? Okay, so we'll move on. Item F, on our consent calendar, we have the minutes included from the July 20th regular board meeting, the general fund claims for July of 2022, excuse me, the sheriff's special tax claims for July of 2022, and I don't believe there are any purchase orders on this one. Any questions from the board on any of those? Okay, is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Okay, very good. Carol?
Aye.
Vincent Gillis entry.
Robin, aye.
And Bowman is aye. Approved. Thank you. We're once again ready to hear about Buena Vista. Please bring us good news.
So, I think I gave, on the committee meeting, I gave a good update of what's going on, but basically, I'll start with, I know we discussed in the past that we were looking to, get the pipes ordered because, there's been a long wait time, and I have been in talk with the contractor about that. We've been working through, I actually reached out to a few of the pipe manufacturers, Pacific Pipe and Western Waterworks, the ones that, they recommended that they like to use a lot, so, I did reach out to them, and good news coming from the contractor and, the pipe developers themselves, they're saying that the time for lead time for pipes on the way back down, it's kind of back to where it was, between like 2 to 3 weeks, which is what it always was. So that's the good news. But even with that said, we still want to, do what we can, and we kind of discussed this at the committee meeting, to get these pipes procured basically, so we have them on site and ready to go when the environmental permit comes in. So I have talked with them, I have my CM team, and basically we discussed them filling the pipe as they typically would on a project, just kind of what we call a procurement period, which is before the process starts and everything. So our CM team is working with them based on what we discussed in the last meeting. They're in discussions right now. They're just trying to figure out how to do that without the project fully being started. So they're working through those details right now, and I should have more update on that as we come moving forward. And that moved me into the actual environmental side of it. So I know based on the introduction, we've been waiting for this for a while. We are still waiting on the Army Corps. And I just want to, just to give, a little bit of the background on it, because I hate coming in here sounding like a broken record, When we first started, we already had the Regional Water Board and the Department of Fish and Wildlife. That's all in the bag, and we're still maintaining that. But the Army Corps has been the tough one. And just a reminder, when we first started reaching out to the Army Corps, which we weren't allowed to do until after the board gives their approval. The one representative that fields all this, he was on a field out for the first month and a half, 2 months. So that was just lost time, unfortunately, with the Corps. And we're still working through. We're sending emails. Actually, about a week before the committee meeting, I sent another bit of information they were asking for. But there's no sign that anything's going sour. It's just they keep going through. The last step, remember, I think I discussed, they went through the tribal consultation. That's all been kind of gone through. There was no issues with that. But now they're on to what's called SHPO, which is the State Historic Preservation Office. So they're working through that. That was what I provided more information for on that. So they're still working through it. I'm still sending these weekly emails to them. And I kind of, while I was talking with the contractor, we discussed the possibility, the rainy season coming up. So I wanted to hear, and I kind of discussed the complications that I would assume would happen, but I wanted to hear a straight provision, not he's the one doing the work. So we kind of talked about it. He said, we can do it during the rainy season, or we obviously prefer to do it outside of the rainy season. But I kind of discussed, he said, yeah, we can do, anything can be done. But, we spec'd in a water bypass system, and they size it for the typical amount of water. So they can't really foresee if there's going to be any cost implication until they see if they're going to exceed that, and it's going to exceed that storm basically. So it's just something we have to play by ear if we were to go ahead. But of course, we still need to get the environmental permit before we can even think of that. So it's possible both ways. But that kind of brings us to the conversation of, do we want to do it during the rainy season, or if we were to get that permit, say in the next 2 weeks, but we're kind of up against the.
Cynthia Creek was done during the rainy season.
It was.
I think we should proceed and then see what happens, and then make a decision at the time. I mean, if it means it's a huge additional expense, that's one thing, but it didn't seem to cost us anything additional on Sandia Creek. And it's being projected this year, at least in the Farmer's Almanac, whatever that means, that it's going to be a dry winter. So,
Do we know what criteria they use to size the water bypass system that they did in?
Yeah, it's actually, we provided that. It's just basically the 100-year dying storm. And it's not going to all go in the pipe, but that's what the storm they give. But if you get a larger one, it's 100 years on 1% chance of happening. So it's not actually every 100 years. But, we, on Sandia Creek, I wouldn't say that's necessarily true. It didn't cost us any extra money because they did have to add. We had a really large storm, which was above the 100-year storm that came in. They did a great job taking care of it. They put down the spillways, but it did cut into the contingency. It didn't cost us additional money over the project, but it did cut into the contingency money a little bit to take care of that. The good thing is, it's really only the issue with setting up this water bypass system, the erosion control measures is, it's just the first 2 to 3 weeks. That's what it takes to get the base down and get the pipes basically operational. So that's the only room for error basically. So after that, they have the system fully operational. There's no risk anymore after that. So it is something to consider, but of course, we can't do anything until we get these environmental permits. And, just to give all the information about if we did want to go past the rainy season, that brings back the issue of, well, we do have the Fish and Wildlife and the Regional Water Board permits. What do those expire? Do those anything happen? The good thing is it's not a delay on our part. So we're working, we're coordinating, Ringcon has been coordinating, just making sure that we're still staying up to date on those. So there's no indication, because we're not the ones delaying, that would let anything expire, because obviously we can't do anything. So that's basically a bit of, just make sure, no, I think I got everything in there. So that's the information. So yeah, so I see what you're saying. It's, they do actually have a storm measures in place to handle rain, but of course it's not the best way we want to go. But if we get that permit, we want to go as soon as possible. But that's all. It's kind of a decision that has to be made here in the near future.
So we've been going through a chain of activities with the Corps of Engineers. Do we know how long that chain is?
So it's been the exact date I don't have, but I know it was I remember around Thanksgiving because there was, so it's been about 9-10 months, going on, but that was from the start. That's the Corps was a little bit later. It took about 2 months because you have to get the recommendation from the regional water board before you can even talk to the Corps. They won't even look at it until they get that recommendation, from the state to federal can move on basically. So I'd say at least 8 months.
But within the Corps of Engineers steps that they go through to reach approval. You mentioned earlier that there were like 3 or so that we had been through so far. It was currently in a particular step. Do we know whether that's the last step or are there 6 more or?
So I only mentioned a few that they told us. I don't know what happened all the way before then. With these federal agencies, you know, it's they kind of work on their own deadlines. They do their own. Again, I have one guy, so I don't have the specific checklist of what they're doing. And the unfortunate thing about it is the state agencies, they're held to a 90-day timeline, 30-day timeline. The federal agency, that's not how they operate. And that's why we're able to get into Fish and Game. We only got that because of timed out, basically. Because they're too overloaded.
Is there an escalation process available for us to try to get some focus on it?
So there is potentially, I know in the past we have just reached out directly to a general, and just to kind of give a background, you know, we bid this project without the environmental project, just based on, you know, wanting to push this through. Typically, we would rather wait until we have the environmental, so we don't have to worry about renegotiation and all this. But that's kind of what we went through, based on, you know, wanting to get this road open as soon as possible and pressure on that. So. But yes, there's potentially ways to escalate it. I can see if we can reach out to the general. It's not something you want to do every time. It doesn't put you in good favor with them. But you know, right now at this time, it's kind of like we've exhausted our options. So this could be a time to pull out of it.
Sounds like that's been kind of, not this a long time.
I agree. And, you know, in the beginning, you know, I think Dave has come up here and he said, you know, sometimes the thing takes 6 months, sometimes it could take multiple years.
Right.
So it's really just it's a guessing game on when these timelines are gonna go. I hate to say that, engineers should never say something like that, but it's just these environmental agencies are just not easy to deal with, and they always use another, you know, the code excuse, and supply issues and everything, and on top of it.
It would seem like the lifetime of the approvals that we have may be a criteria for us to begin an escalation, because if they don't approve within the next few months, then we're back to the starting position with those approvals, if I understand the process right. So that poses a timeline for us, or a deadline for us. We need to back up whatever the construction time is when those things time out and get started by them. So that information presented in a concise, coherent, and pleasant way to the general might be obeyed.
Now, agree, the general, let's be real here.
Yeah, that's
I'll tell you the truth, we're 1 year more to go. That's what I'm hearing. That we pushed this because we're board member one is, you know, we gotta get it going. Well, we did, so now we wait. And there's another year to go. Your predecessor said right there, it says 4 years, you get to do the board. And that's with the general. And I don't see any generals around, all right? We toss that word around, okay? But I think we need to go in the next, but we may be a year behind, but I've tricked everybody. The appropriate time for this conversation where we're at is 1 month from now, because I moved it forward, okay?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have a big decision to make in October, not now, all right? But I just wanted to let's start talking about this now. So what I say is next month, you get Brandcon, they're the ones on this one, and let's have it in a meeting. I want to see them, okay? I think that's part of the problem. Those folks have the ability, they're the general, okay? they very corrupt, all right? One day they're working for the government, the next day they're working private sector, you know, what that. What I've seen that's effective is that those folks need to go to bat for us, okay? And these are all personal friends going back and forth, all right? It's a big game. And so I think it's time that for the $150,000 we paid them, and we've got one of the residents who recommended them, and I've been thinking about giving her a call and saying, no recommendment anymore. So you need to lean on them and lean on them. And that's what the general, okay? Because we're not big enough to do that, you know, go, no, we're not. So we've got to rely on those people. It's the only way it's gonna happen.
I can do that. I can reach out to them and kind of, I mean, they'll come to you. They'll get a representative here.
And I don't
They'll
know.
kind of give us better, you know.
And I don't know that we need to bother the board, maybe I suggest to the market or whatever, give what I get. And work them over, you know, and they know the buttons to push. So, but you know, this is this stuff about every complaint about regulations and you know, this and that. You can work the game, you just have to know the game. And unfortunately, we don't do it often enough, you know, they do. So, and it's nothing to be worried about because we are a month ahead. I'm even talking about with 100-year storms and all that stuff. That will be coming in October. But I thought it would be good to we got time, so let's kick this around now and see if we can push it through. Now, the pipes, where are we going with the pipes?
So we talked about kind of invoicing, having the contractor invoice for them and getting them on site basically. To see if we can just have that procured basically.
So they're not ordered yet, per se?
They're not ordered yet.
Okay.
They can't order it until they get approval from anyone here, basically.
Got it.
Exactly, yeah, that would never happen until, and I would never get anything with dollar signs unless Teresa was involved in it.
Okay, it was just reason.
Yeah.
And I think in our conversations, we talked about moving in the direction of progress payment sort of thing if we do order the pipes.
Correct, they would invoice us directly.
So they maintain responsibility for it. Correct. Okay, well, let's move on then to the pavement rehabilitation project.
All right, more of me. So I know with that project, that one, we accepted the plans at the last meeting, and now we have sent them out for advertisement just last week, basically, to get that 4-week bid period. Next week we have what's called a non-mandatory pre-bid conference. It's just to discuss any bids or any questions that the contractors may have. And then 2 weeks from that date, we're going to open the bids, which is going to be right before the committee meeting. Once we see those bids, we'll check to see who the lowest responsible bidder is, seeing if anyone, just checking all the bids, making sure they make sense, making sure everything is good there. And once we see that the low bid is the responsible bidder, we'll go to the committee and say, we recommend basically that we award the contract to them, and then at the next board meeting, at September board meeting, we would award the contract. And then hopefully proceed to construction within the next 2 weeks after that. So we've had a couple of responses, a couple of people requesting the plans. So we have had action of people who have plans, which is always a concern when you send something out the bid. So it's always good to see something come in early. So there is interest in the project. So now we just sit and wait. And as time of awarding, we should, if all goes by the plan, have something to award. And then we'll be moving on to our annual slurry.
And when we get those back, we'll be able to see what the bounds of the project will be for this year. How many of the proposed rehabilitation sites will be able to cover with the budget.
Correct, yes, and we have, of course, the base bid, which is the regular amount, the budgeted amount based on our estimate. But then, as of last year, we came in a little lower than we expected, which was always good. That's why we added the alternate or the additional bid, an additive alternate that has extra so many feet of slurry that we can add to the project. So if it comes in low, we can easily, without editing the contract at all, they can always add that in and get those added in. So yes, that would go better.
How long of a project
do you think this will be?
I believe in the contract it's 45 working days, which I think comes out to about three months-ish. So it's working days, not business days, either 45 or 60. Usually around 3 months, but it takes. So I think I have the completion date, and it was in the last board agenda. It's just around either early December, I believe, if we did start by October there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go on to traffic enforcement matters.
Well, we had supposedly the report that's been real quiet August on the traffic stuff, so that's good for us. You know, we wrapped up that project on El Calmar and Escalon and all the striping and everything got done and stuff like that, so that came out really nice. The request that we had, last month we were dealing with for the citizen out on Carancho and Corte Bonita, Justin went out there and just, his team did a wonderful job out there clearing that growth out and everything like that. So that was really looking good. And they're real happy with that result and stuff like that. You guys probably saw that there were traffic tubes out on the community. So we do have information that we collected. So Jim and I will be sitting down in the coming month here and, taking a look at that and stuff for you guys. And I wasn't able to attend your meeting on last Tuesday, I apologize, but I had another conflict, but I'm available for any questions you guys have. If there's anything that comes up, let me know. So that's my update.
And you believe next month you may have the results of the studies that were being done for the follow-up?
Yeah, he wanted the next two. We'll have to see when we dig into it, what.
I'm trying to push it. I know there's a lot of data to go through. I'm not trying to push that. I know there's a lot of data to go through that need to analyze, but it'll be interesting to see the results of it.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Next item is the adoption of the district logo. Jim, you want to go through?
Yeah, it's been a bit of work in progress for a long time.
Yeah.
And 3 years ago or whatever, Julian Hay, who's a resident with the Women's Club, came up with signs. It was the anti-littering campaign. And so she came up with this artwork and put considerable effort into it for staff. And then we made changes and all, and this seemed to be what everybody agreed with. Then we've been using it off and on since, without the don't litter bar on the bottom. And so anyway, I've been working with Debbie, and she and I met with Julie a month or two ago and said, we want to buy the artwork. And so she sold it to us for $2,000. And we now own that. So we have been designing various things. If you notice on the front, the agenda has changed what it looks like. The notices that go out on the window are changed. Something very similar to what's behind you is now on the front window. And we've now stopped the art people or printing people that we're working with, that they can do the sides of the trucks, all of our equipment, things like that. And so since this identifies our corporation and our business, it seemed appropriate that we should show you what it looks like and ask you if you're so inclined to make a motion second on the vote as to whether or not that will be the official logo. It's not the corporate seal, but the logo of this business.
So from the board, do we have any questions on it?
No.
Do we have a motion to accept it?
I'll make the motion to accept the artwork for the logo. Yes.
And a second?
I'll second.
Very good. For the vote, Director Carroll?
Aye.
Director Del Sandro? Aye. Director Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman is an aye. So that's approved. Thank you very much.
We have a new look now.
We're only that easy on a personal level.
It's a good.
Thank you, Ryan. So we're moving on to committee reports, and as the committee chairman for the engineering committee, I'll present that report. As generally is the case in our meeting of August the 9th, we reviewed the items that we reviewed here on traffic and the road maintenance, road projects and maintenance. And so you've heard those reports, so there's not a lot to add to that. But we did have another discussion, and that was about the possibility of doing a traffic study for some of the accident-prone areas in the district. And the study is really one to determine what to study, more or less. In other words, we need to take a look at the areas where we've had accidents, see if there are things that are appropriate from a professional standpoint, have a professional group do that study, analyze the data from that, make recommendations for what we might do to make the area safer and to try to prevent some of these accidents. So this is really just a notice to the board. It's nothing that we have to act on right now, but to let you know that in the future months, we'll be coming back with something from the professional group that looks at road conditions, signage, that sort of thing, a little bit deeper than what we do on a normal level. So you'll be seeing that come out of the committee over the next few months as we get into that.
So it's not just accidents, it's more than that. I mean, there could be areas that have never had an accident, but are maybe prone
Prone to it, yes. Steep hills, curves, combinations of those, that sort of thing. We've had some accidents, some fairly recent, right, from the combination of those. But we don't want to necessarily limit it to that. It wants to be areas where there might be other things that we don't anticipate, right?
They'll make recommendations.
Those recommendations, and that would be the, and this would be a paid study that we'll go out to the professionals for. And then try to act on it. The finance committee.
Thank you. We did meet yesterday, and I would point out just a few things. First of all, I'm going to start at the end of our meeting, which is the LAIF, the interest rate that we received is at 0.99%. And I mean, we are so excited about that. It is actually about 3 times what it has been. So that's good news, and we'll see whether it goes up some more. It might not, but that's a good start anyway. It has been higher in the past than 1%, so perhaps it'll get back up there again. The other thing we did was we talked a little bit about the general fund, and I want to point out one thing on the general fund. You don't need to necessarily go back and look at it, but there is a $5,000 charge to Dylan Dixon Tree Services. I point out that while we were sitting here 2 meetings ago, a tree fell somewhere in the forest. I don't know if there was anyone there to hear it, but it was discovered, and they went and fixed it while we sat here. And our crew was out there most of the night as well. I wanted to really point that out because that's, they do great work, and they were there supervising this and watching it. So by morning, the road was open, and we sat here unknowing that this was going on. What an interest we now know about. The other thing we talked about is, I'm not only going to give you a very brief mention of this because it appears in the minutes, but Jim will be talking about this at other meetings. And we're looking at some staffing arrangements that might actually help Teresa in the finance office. And so Jim has some ideas and proposals. He'll be coming back to us with that. And we did talk a little bit about that. I think he's got some really good ideas. But I don't want to bring that out now. I think it'd be better for him to do that when he's ready to actually talk about it
Next meeting.
next meeting. Okay, very good. I think that's really about it. There's really nothing else in that, and, okay, so that's my report.
Thank you very much. Jim, do you have anything to add on legislative committee report?
It's still at the staff level, that's what we have, the committee hasn't met formally anyway. And when I say staff level, this is it, Ward 9. And, but when we're working with the Orange County, former Orange County Council, getting us together, I think we've just about got it. And essentially where it's at is, as soon as we can get our agreement here, we'll give it to the committee. The committee, I believe, will say, let's go. And what let's go means is that we are going to take a written response from our, what do you call him, our specialist attorney, Ryan, from Orange County. And he's going to provide a written or verbal response presentation to Supervisor Jeffries. And because you see, Jeffries is on our side. That was the last go round. But then the staff came back in opposition. So we think we have addressed all of the staff concerns. By staff, I mean like the CEO of the county and the road department director of the county. So I think we got that all put to bed. We're just finishing it up. And then hopefully supervisor will say, I'm satisfied, but that's what we're gonna ask him to say. And then put it on a board agenda, and it takes 3 votes. So the staff will oppose no matter what we do. But we've now backfilled, the supervisor, that will be his case to his colleagues, the other supervisor. And so we're hoping that we can get that by the end of this year, because starting January 1st, we get a new supervisor. So it's all, the timing here is important, because the incoming supervisor is going to have an interest in this and is aware of this. And the outgoing has already committed to us that he will do this for us. So there's 2 votes out of 3 right there.
Right now, we're in the situation of being in the overlap period, aren't we, where there's actually 2.
Well, technically, the overlap starts January.
Yeah, okay.
1st. So, but they both know, Jeffers isn't going anywhere. He's just not gonna technically be our supervisor, and Washington will be coming in January 1. And he said, we've talked to him a number of times, and I can't put words in his mouth, but he's never said he disagrees with us. So he's been very positive through this whole thing. So, and then we'll have to do a little work probably to talk to one more at least supervisor. My guess is if he supports this, it has answers to those concerns that the staff's raising. I think it'll be fine.
There is one correction. The committee did meet.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It was basically to talk about.
What you just said.
You're right. You're
Clarify
right.
that.
Sorry, I forgot.
It's okay. I
And-
thought I was here, but maybe I wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I guess next comes the GM report. I was going to, it's in here, that we never titled it, the executive compensation or compensation committee of the board. But historically, that has been the president and the treasurer. And what that all means is the guy, but there's been a lot of blood splattered on these walls, once a year about, the GM compensation package. And I asked for the moon and they chopped it down to a little, common or or something. But my contract is over Halloween night, so I told them if I come in a Halloween outfit, I'm probably tomorrow in the casino. But, yeah, we had a meeting and it went well, wasn't any blood splattered. I think we both agreed, because this time it's signed, both parties signed, okay? So they've asked me to bring it back, you know, the ward is now in his court, or put it on the agenda for the next meeting. To be effective then November 1. So, but just a heads up that that's coming, so. And so we killed two birds with one stone. First 15 minutes was talking about where we're at with gas tax. And then said we need to. So he was tough. Oh man, my arm's still sore.
Anything more for the general manager's report?
Yeah, I just have two more. We covered gas tax. Also, I wanted to give Jessica credit for all this. She's been like a full-time artist over there for the last month or so, making all this happen. So,
Working with our printers and stuff, she's been doing great.
yeah, it's not something we do. So, the kid's coming out nice, so thank you. Organic waste. We had the presentation 3 months or so ago. We've had various meetings since, both on the legal side, on the legislative side, on the actual operational side with Alex and all. At this point in time, we could do this. Okay, I mean, there's no question it can be done. It's not gonna have to be as extreme. We won't, we'll probably get by with 2 trucks. We have 1 now, go to 2. Originally it was on 3. That part of it, and I'm not gonna go in all the details. We'll do that another time, but it's doable. It can be done in a relatively safe manner. So what I'm leading up to is then cost. I can tell you right now, whatever you're paying today, because everybody has a little bit different configuration of service that you're buying, So just take what you're paying today and double it. That's what it's going to be. Not going to be any less. It might be a little more. I don't know exactly, but that's where it's shaking out. And you have the legal authority to mandate that price pursuant to state law, because state law says price is not a reason, or public concern about the price is not a reason not to do this. And you never see, I've never seen the legislature give that kind of authority. In other words, make the tax any thing you want. It's up to you. Yeah. So anyway, that's where it's at. Okay. So operationally it can be done. The cost figureable. Okay. And we can work the bugs out operationally. The legislature goes out of business for this season in next Friday. They're done. And so the new legislature who will be voted in November 8th, I believe it is, they take office like the 2nd or 3rd day of December. So, and we will have a new assembly person and a new Senate person. And so it's possible that we could get them to put another bill in. Because here's the argument. The rule says, the regulations, not the law, but the regulations under, for the, what's the name of the department?
Calorie cycle.
Calorie cycle, yeah. They have their own regulations, brand new, and it says there shall be a rural exemption for any district that's under 7,000 population based on the census tracts of the district. Cities and counties have census tracts, school districts, things like that. They're just within their boundaries. Districts don't. ours have overlapping, there's 3 census tracts that overlap with Temecula on the south and Marietta on the north. And we're like 16,000 population. But all that population is, it was incorporated soon. But the regulation, here are the exact words, it's only here, four words.
No,
It's, the census tracts that include the district and the population that is within the unincorporated area. And it's clear as a bell to us that you exclude those people in the incorporated areas. And they say, but it's clear to us, we just take the whole census tract, that's it. So, and then that's our interpretation, and we make the decisions around here, and that's what you have to do. And they've said, we know because they are also monitoring the amount of organic waste that's coming out of here. They know how much it is. It's about 2,000 people. So, and we know how many owners we have. We know how many homes we have. It's simple. We're about, I guess we're 2,300 probably if you really took it door by door. And they just won't hear it. So what we have to do is get a bill that defines it for them. Okay, that rural exemption is. And I've already talked to the people, cities, counties, when you annex, they annex, they say your state, and they annex a new development, right? And so now the question is, how do they get more money from all their subventions that come from the state based on population? So the Department of Finance has a population unit, and they're the god in Sacramento. They determine population for the state of California. So when a city annexes in a new tract, they go to the DOF, these folks have their procedures, and they make the determination, this is the new population, and next year their money is based on those numbers. So I called them up and I said, hey, can I hire you too? And they said, actually you can, because we work for the state. So anything that the state's involved in involves state money, they do for free, all right? But there are people like you guys, districts, whatever, that need population, and for a price, we do it. It's really not that expensive, it's basically our time. And then you would have the number from the DOF, and you could argue, and they actually looked at it, they said, yeah, it was only like 2,500. Because they've got all the data, they can just look. And so they see the problem, but we can't hire them unless we get some big couple of things, which would be like in a bill. But legislation is very expensive, as we found out once before. So anyway, that's where we are, just going around and around. But the reason I'm bringing it up is we're running out of time. It's just like the other issue here. And in the next September or October meeting, we've got to start moving toward a decision. And I know we haven't finalized the package for you to review, but I kind of need you to be thinking about it, because it's looking like you're going to be going to your people, like we're going to have to, rent Todd's barn or something and give her bad news that one, their rates are going to double, and there's no reason to come up and yell at you guys because the state of California said it doesn't matter, charge them anything it takes to get this done. And that's so bizarre. But anyway, yeah, what's the point of a public hearing if the people that are hearing you as a citizen can't do anything about it? Weird. But anyway, and then there's going to be operational issues. And what I'm hearing is that the organics will be every other week, which is weird. Okay, and that your normal recycled bottles, cans, stuff like that will be the other. That enables them to do it, just 2 trucks instead of 3. But anyway, those are details that, will shake out, but ultimately, and in a very short period of time, there's gonna need to be some policy decisions made. So,
One of the things that might be helpful would be, and I presume from CR&R, who is the vendor doing this, we could determine what the annual revenue to them from the district is, from the people they're collecting from. That, if it's going to double, is approximately the amount of money that the residents here will be paid. That could give us a sense of how much of an investment we may want to make in fighting this in their behalf. If there's,
I can answer that now.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost you all $250,000 a year. If you just take what I said, double it, right? That's how much. So yeah, I've been using that as kind of factoring in, how much is a lobbyist? Yeah, that's only a year, it sounds huge to a lobbyist, but that's only a year. If our citizens don't have to pay the double rate and get the rural exception, and we just go about life the way we're doing.
Only problem is our budget doesn't see that.
I'm sorry.
In other words, we spend $100,000 and save 250,000, that helps residents, and that's good. But it doesn't help our budget.
No,
Instead,
you're right.
it has to pay 250,000, et cetera. So we have to take that into account. What you also mentioned the other day that there was a court case in Oakland. Is
That's the
is that
next
relevant?
item on the agenda. So I'll just finish my, oh, you have questions?
Same thing Chuck said.
Some of you, I think all of you know about that we've gotten a card in the mail that talks about San Diego County and a winery. So I'm gonna be meeting with legal Friday. And we're going to have BB&K and he doesn't know this yet, why we're meeting at 11 o'clock. But I need one of his land use lawyers, because, we don't do planning and zoning and stuff here, but we need to put San Diego County on notice about this winery on Sandy Creek with only accesses through us, that we want to be a player in this whole process, because environmental, they're gonna have to do at least a focused environmental impact report on that. Because they only have one way in, one way out, and that's our Sandy Creek. So I know the developer is gonna wanna get around that, oh, well, don't worry about that, they're on the other county or whatever. We're their only access. So, anyway, I just need something, I could probably write it from years ago, but to put San Diego County on notice, do not forget us, because we're a player here.
And the Fulbright Planning Group.
Which I had to figure out who they are, and what they are is something that counties do. It's basically to protect the supervisors.
Yeah.
And so they go to this, in the state law, it's municipal advisory committee. And they can basically say any idea somebody has, including a developer, you have to go talk to these group of citizens first. And then they decide whether they want this or not want this. And then they process your application. So when I call this guy his phone number's on this card that they mailed out?
But we did not get, I never.
No, it's only within.
Yeah,
This
only
is-
within.
This
it's
is
the
a
same
planning
thing.
and zoning
Yeah.
deal, right? So, I got it from these guys who do live within 500 feet or something like that. So I just dialed the number and, introduced myself. And he says, yeah, what do you want? And I said, I'm responding to your comment. And he said, what about it? And I said, the winery. And he says, yeah, which one of the 20 I'm working on? And I go, huh? I'm reading off your card. And he says, yeah, well, we just send these things out, What are you talking about here? And then I tell him Sandy Creek, and he goes, well, I kind of know what you're talking about. Yeah, what we do anytime anybody applies for anything, We notify the people around like that someone has applied for something. And then we send them over to the planning group for a couple months. And then when they get through the planning group, then we, the staff and the planning department, open the case and start the processing. You know, you gotta be kidding. And then, but that's okay. So then he could see I knew kind of how the process worked. So then he explained to the planning group, and then I remembered, that's right, they do that. And so he's not even gonna look, or the county planning zoning staff aren't even gonna look at this for a couple of months, maybe longer. And there's a way to see it. The planning group will say, well, we're happy with it or not happy with it or whatever. So, but okay, that's all fine and good, but what about CEQA? You know, you gotta start the process when a developer applies, you have to decide whether he needs an EIR or not. And there's a process for doing that. And so I said, so I've got the access, I mean, Riverside County and a special district, I've got your sole access, and there's 5 pages in the checklist about traffic. And I said, so who's gonna do that? And he said, oh, I never thought about that. Because we're so unique, you know, and this property is 100% service Sandia Creek, because now they've got the gate. And he goes, yeah, I never thought about that. I said, well, you better start thinking. And how do I don't want to get you guys get down the road and tell them they don't need an EIR. Because there wasn't anybody there to fill out those 4 pages. It went over to the road department and they said, oh, we don't know what that is. Well, of course they don't. It's in our Riverside County that's going to get the traffic in and out of that property.
And the drunk drivers.
So, yeah, well, I didn't go that far with him, but he got it. And I said, so how do I get a guarantee? And he said, I don't know, I'll look into it. That's why we're meeting at 11 o'clock, because we need a legal letter to go to San Diego County Board of Supervisors saying, do not forget about us, get down the road. And then say, oh, sorry, you know.
And the reason I mentioned Fallbrook Planning Group, just because I lived in Fallbrook and I know how they work and some people that are on there. They probably haven't even thought of it, the same thing, that they're gonna need to get permission or do some things. If they know about it, then they'll keep it on the list of stuff that needs to be reviewed too.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I'd make sure Eileen Delaney knows about it, that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, we'll make sure, I'll talk to you about how to get it to her. But I'm thinking it should go clear to the board supervisors, because if they proceed and say, oh, we forgot, we didn't know, this is what's gonna happen in 6 to 8 months. Oh, we didn't know Duluth, you know, blah, 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 too late now.
Yeah.
We need to be on the record that they have to treat us, it's no different than neighboring cities. You know, the city next door, if the traffic from this development is gonna affect, you know, through their other line, you've gotta work, the 2 planning staffs have to work as if it's within their home. In or you have a CEQA problem, which is, I don't know. And, but with counties, it's just things it seems that stuff done, like, you know, 6 months from now, they say, well, you're too late, we did that, you know.
Well, Fallbrook has a new winery right now on, it was the Fallbrook Golf Course.
The Montserrat.
The Montserrat, yes.
Yeah.
So they're really into wineries right now. There's a couple of new ones and everyone's loving it and everything. So unless the planning commission understands that people have to come through Duluth, Temecula, they might go, this is a great idea. So that's the reason I say it. Yeah, and the wineries they have are really nice. They are nice wineries, but they're in, you know, on major streets, you know, either on Mission or Montserrat or, yeah, so.
So anyway, we're working on that, just wanted to, you know, so that segues right into the attorney report, I guess, huh?
So, yeah, about a week ago, there was a case that came out of the California Supreme Court, and everybody was so very concerned about it because it seemed to suggest that the franchise fees on solid waste would be considered a tax. Now, I would cut to the end of the story and say, I don't believe that that's actually what the case held. There's still a long way to go.
with it. But the worst case scenario is we'd have to double the tax, to implement the organic waste regulations. But you would have to put it out to a vote. And what do you do if the people voted down? So I don't think that that's necessarily what the case is saying. So what happened was the city of Oakland, they have solid waste and they have a franchise that they awarded it to there's two different solid waste haulers there. And somebody came along and is trying to, and they're doing this all the time, they're trying to claim the franchise fee as a tax. It has to go out to the voters under Proposition 218. And what happened is there's a device in litigation that people often use, and in my experience, it's not always very successful. They started off with what's called a demur. And what that means is you go to your trial court and you say, as a matter of law, this case is no good because as a matter of law, it's not a franchise fee, is not a tax because and they were right, the Supreme Court about 5 years ago, there was another case on franchise fees. And in that case, the Supreme Court said the franchise fees are not a tax, it's a fee for services. And so we're basing our, case based on this 5-year-old Supreme Court case. Well, it ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court case and to the Supreme Court again. And the Supreme Court said, well, but that case 5 years ago was different. That was dealing with utility franchise fees. Now we're talking solid waste franchise fees. So the reasons we had for exempting those fees from taxes is not the same as with the case you have. So you need to go back down and think of a different reason for why your fees are exempt from taxes. Now, there are other reasons, but they didn't pick those reasons when they approached the Supreme Court this time. So the Supreme Court said, you got to go back down and try again. That's all the case is saying. It's not saying that solid waste franchise fees are taxes. It's just saying there are other exemptions. You've got to try out the case and it could be another 2 years before this case gets back, if it even gets back to the Supreme Court. So all it is saying is that franchise fees for solid waste franchises are different than franchise fees for utility fees. So that's basically what all the hubbub was. There was a bunch of hubbub last week about all this concern about, oh no, solid waste fees are going to have to go to the voters. So that's not what the state is saying at all. So
We hoped that last week.
yeah.
It's not canning out.
Yes, so that's basically where we are. There was a lot of hubbub over nothing, I think, but we'll find out in a couple of years probably when it all gets played out.
The process is going to begin for us in about 6 or 8 months. Is that a fair guess? When
It's supposed to happen January 1st.
Yes.
right, the concern was that there wouldn't be equipment to be able to.
And that's what we're saying. So it's some
Sometime
some time.
first of the year, we're going to see actual trucks on the road picking up waste and new.
It'll be
bins out
at
of the side of the
least
road.
a year
About a year.
Yeah.
because, supply chain projections. Those trucks.
So at this point in time, where would we be at that time? If there's no decision made on whether this is or another tax or whether we
Well,
need it
I
for
think
voters or.
we proceed as we have for the last 50 years, that it's not a tax
Right.
and just continue to impose what is required to conduct the service. And
So what the residents would see is at some point in time, there's going to be a new bin out there, there's going to be an extra truck coming by, and the every 2-month bill they get is going to be different.
As I recall, the estimate was not double.
I'm giving you worst case.
Okay, because he said it would not double cost. He said that, I think it would be about, as I recall, about a third, 40% more. As I
remember
recall.
something along that line as well.
Well, I think that's the point, because we're looking at,
I think it's gone up a little bit.
okay,
Than what you said originally. And I've seen the reasons why, and there were good reasons, like to take one more truck off the street, to do this, do that. So here's the new number kind of thing. And then in my head, I've learned, don't give them the lowest possible number first, because it has to go up and just get your head off. I'm kind of just using that as a.
okay.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
I think, Director Paulson.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, right, that's okay, that's okay. If we do want to go to court with this, will that hold them off from, will that hold us off from having to perform and do, no, so it won't, so we'll still have to do that while we're going to court. In my opinion, I don't like being pushed around by the state that way, because I feel that we have no restaurants, we have nothing here, and I just can't see how they can. I figure if this isn't gonna be the first fee, there's always more
Yeah.
coming later, in my experience, so I just think, I don't know, the residents up here have fought for a lot of stuff, and we've done really well for Walker, I mean, all kinds of things over the years. I just think it'd be worth getting in front of somebody. And then if you do get in front of somebody, where's the case looked at? Is it in Sacramento?
If you would file it, I think you could file the case down here, if you were going to file a court case.
Okay, so you could file it in Riverside County, let's say.
I thought the discussion we had was that that was not that was not the best option to go
Right.
for. That the better option would be to try to get legislative change.
We felt that the more productive way to go would be to get a legislative fix rather than a court case, because we felt like the chances of winning a court case were very small.
And that would still be the case even a year later or whatever, when people new legislatures that are being put in.
Yes.
So sometime after the election in November, we'd want to get to know the
Certainly.
new people pretty well. Okay, anything else?
That's it. That's
All
all.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna assume we don't have a road maintenance report tonight. The equipment and the folks are all out, performing.
I think I'll just hold, they're out, their sinkholes that they reported by the trash truck. So they're still out, so,
We'll get a
anyway,
report
we'll just hold till next month.
next month and, hopefully get to, see the skid steer out here in action. It's earning its money right now, probably, your guess earlier today was, we collected $10,000 back or something along those
I
lines.
think, yeah, about 10,000 for not contracting it out. If it went all day, and it has gone all day, so that's about right.
Yeah. So, that's great because it's earning its keep and, we're doing things for ourselves that we'd have to be paying more for. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
7:15.